Good morning students. Today we are going to see about disaster mitigation. Last class we completed phase 1, that is disaster response and relief phase. Today we are going to see about disaster mitigation. In that, mitigation means it is nothing but it is a prevention of hazards, thereby we are lessening the impact of the disaster. So it involves the measures designed to prevent the hazards from causing emergency or to lessen the likely effect of emergency. So we are taking some measures so that in future similar disaster happens, we will not be having this much of large impact as now. So next year if similar flood comes, you will not be landing up with this much of hazards. So there will be lessening of the impact by doing some preventive measures. So measures include flood mitigation works, appropriate land use planning, improved building codes and reduction or protection of vulnerable population and structures. So we are doing some flood mitigation works. We are making a land appropriate for the proper building or for the agriculture purpose. Appropriate land planning is being done. And building codes, it is very difficult to get a license for a building to start up, and completion of the building also checking is being done, then only license is being given. That is because even by small earthquakes or landslides, the large buildings are getting collapsed because poor construction. So to prevent that, improved building codes are advised and kept the land in a appropriate place. Reduction or protection of vulnerable population and structures. So always keeping in mind the protection of the vulnerable population and the structures, thereby we can lessen the impact of the disaster. So aim is to reduce the vulnerability of the system. Ultimate aim of mitigation is to reduce the vulnerability of the system. I'll show you one picture here. This is a picture of a flood, like the area which is being affected with flood. So next year the similar area, if flood happens, these houses or residential area will be saved. So in the first picture you can see the house is built in upper level so that the water will not enter into their house. So in that way the base is being elevated and it is being built. And second picture you can see a home with proper drainage facility. If there is a flood happens, even the base is being elevated, and also you can see the steps are being kept up, and the base of the ground level is being elevated, so water will not enter. Even though if water enter also, there is a certain motor pumps and all is being set so that the elevated water can be drained off automatically with the help of these pumps. So that is this is how the plans are being made, and you might have seen some other pictures also. You can see here in the left hand side one picture. Previously the house, how much of water was there during this flood. So now presently you see where they kept the window to prevent water entry. So in that way it can be set and waterproof building can be prepared. So in right hand side also you can see flood resilient houses can be prepared, and bedrooms, lockers, valuable things can be kept upper part of the house, and kitchen and other items are being bringing down. So in that way slight modifications are being done. You can see the ground level also, here the steps are being kept and the base of the house is being elevated. So in that way different kind of modifications are being done on the house so that flood can be prevented. So in that way various measures are taken based on the type of disaster in that affected area, and so that in future similar disaster happen, there will be lessening the effect of disaster. Medical casualties can be reduced by improving the structural quality of houses, schools and other buildings. So improve by proper building of the schools, houses and buildings can reduce the number of casualties coming after disaster. Mitigation complements the disaster preparedness and disaster response activities. So mitigation includes these two things, that is disaster preparedness, pre-preparedness and disaster response activities. You can underline and learn. Mitigation complements disaster pre-preparedness and disaster response activities. Coming to the third phase of disasters management cycle, that is disaster preparedness. So it is a program of long-term development activities whose goals are to strengthen the overall capacity and capability of a country to manage efficiently all types of emergencies. So country is being made capable of managing all type of emergencies. In such a way, the disaster pre-preparedness is done for the country, the state, district, in different ways. The various disaster management team is continuing giving these pre-preparedness phases so that the medical casualties can be reduced. Main objective of this phase is to ensure that the appropriate systems, procedures and resources are in place to provide prompt, effective assistance to disaster victims, thus facilitating relief measures and rehabilitation of the services. So why we are doing this pre-preparedness is so that we could able to provide prompt, effective assistance to disaster victims. So we are foreseeing a similar disaster in future, and in such a way the preventive measures are being done so that we can give a prompt and effective assistance for the affected victims, and thus facilitating relief measures and rehabilitation of the services very easily. Otherwise, if we are not having a pre-preparedness, even the communication saying that the disaster happened will not be reached to outside community, and the services reaching to the affected area will be too late. So to prevent all that things, we are making prompt action. For that we are doing this pre-preparedness. Community members, resources, organization and administration should be the cornerstone of an emergency pre-preparedness program. So what are the cornerstones? Community members, resources, organizations and administration act as a cornerstone of community preparedness. Underline and learn the four aspects. Disaster preparedness is an ongoing multi-sectoral activity. It forms an integral part of national system responsible of developing plans and programs for disaster management, prevention, mitigation, pre-preparedness, response, rehabilitation and reconstruction. So once we are doing all these things, we could able to achieve this pre-preparedness phase. So that is only this disaster management is successful only when all these phases are come in a coordination, that is programs like disaster management, prevention, mitigation, pre-preparedness, response, rehabilitation and reconstruction. All these phases work together in a coordination, then the disaster management will be successful, and medical casualties or the emergencies can be lessened. Reasons of community preparedness. Members of the community have the most to lose from being vulnerable to disasters and most to gain from the effective and appropriate emergency pre-preparedness program. So why we are doing this community pre-preparedness? It's because of this pre-preparedness we could able to save majority of the vulnerable groups who are at risk during the time of disasters. Thereby we can save those category of the people, and we can ultimately save the nation itself. Those who first respond to an emergency come from within the community, that we already learned. The affected victim survivors will be the who's the first persons who is helping during the time of disaster. So resources are most easily pooled at the community level, and every community possesses capability. So once we planning to do a pre-preparedness, the resources can be taken from the community itself. We should not think that I must pre-prepare things by setting the things by bringing the things from abroad or from outside community. Then the disaster management will not work well. Always take the resources easily available from the community itself, so that the capability of managing this disaster will be easy and successful. Sustained development is best achieved by allowing emergency affected communities to design, manage and implement internal and external assistance program. So once we are allowing this